morning, ladies and gentlemen. The ceremony will begin in approximately 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in approximately 2 minutes. Please take this opportunity to turn off all alarms, cell phones, and other electronic devices. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in approximately 1 minute. We ask that you please be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Major General Michael C. McCurry, welcome to the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence in Fort Novosel Change of Command Ceremony. Today, Major General Michael C. McCurry relinquishes command to Major General Clair A. Gill. On the field before you are the units participating in today's ceremony, composed of the United States Army Combat Readiness Center, brigades, battalions, unit colors, and soldiers assigned to the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence in Fort Novosel. Today's ceremony is a reflection of procedures practiced since the birth of our Army in 1775. The presence of the band represents the significant role martial music has played throughout history by instilling pride, loyalty, and courage in armies before battle. The formation of troops centered on our national flag represents the unified purpose of our Army and its willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice in the defense of our nation. Next to our national flag are the unit colors. This closeness to the national flag symbolizes the trust placed in us by our nation. Before each unit are the brigade and battalion colors. Each is a symbol of pride, tradition, and history. Unit colors still serve to mark the location of an organization's headquarters and its commander. When a unit's colors are removed from the headquarters, such as today's, they remain under guard. This is more than tradition. It is a solemn recognition and devotion to the sacrifice and gallantry of all who have ever served under the colors. The task of guarding unit colors is an honor given only to the finest of soldiers. Distinguished guests in attendance from the USAACE command team, Major General Mrs. Michael C. McCurry, Commanding General, United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence. Major General Clair A. Gill and Dr. Fran Gill, Incoming Commanding General, U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence in Fort Novosel. Mr. and Mrs. Robert C. Dewar, USAACE Deputy to the Commanding General. Brigadier General Ken Cole, Incoming USAACE Deputy Commanding General. Brigadier General Matthew Strub, Deputy Commanding General, Army National Guard Aviation, and CW5 Charles Madison, Army National Guard Aviation CWAB. CW5 and Mrs. Michael A. Corsaro, Chief Warrant Officer of the Aviation Branch. Command Sergeant Major and Mrs. Kirk R. Coley, Command Sergeant Major of the Aviation Branch. Other distinguished guests in attendance include Lieutenant General Milford Beagle, Commanding General, United States Army Combined Arms Center, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. The Honorable Mark Blankenship, Mayor of Ozark. The Honorable David Hayes, Mayor of Geneva. The Honorable Bobby Borland, Mayor of Pinkard. The Honorable William Cooper, Mayor of Enterprise. The Honorable Charles W. and Mrs. Schieffer, Mayor of New Brockton. The Honorable Jamie Staten, Mayor of Daleville. The Honorable Ronnie Thompson, Mayor of Level Plains. General Retired Richard Cody. Lieutenant General Retired Doug Gabram. Lieutenant General Retired Dan Petrosky. Lieutenant General Retired and Mrs. Tony Jones. Lieutenant General Retired John Curran. Lieutenant General Retired Tony Crutchfield. Mr. Mike Schmitz, Civilian Aide to the Sec Army, Alabama South. Mr. Ralph Schultz, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army for the state of Tennessee. And a special welcome to all of our Gold Star families in attendance. Distinguished family and friends of the McCurry family include Major General McCurry's spouse, Mrs. Sadie McCurry, daughter Captain Katie Walter, her husband Andrew Walter, and their children, the McCurry's grandchildren, Miss Rory Walter and Mr. Patrick Walter. Their son, Mr. Michael McCurry, their son, Mr. John McCurry, their son, Mr. Jed McCurry, and their daughter, Miss Maggie McCurry. Distinguished guests from the McCurry family joining us virtually are Major General McCurry's parents, Colonel Retired Michael and Mrs. Kathleen McCurry, Major General McCurry's daughter, Captain Mary Delvaux, and her husband, Captain Evan Delvaux, and several of Major General McCurry's brothers and sisters. Distinguished family and friends of the Gill family include Major General Gill's spouse, Dr. Fran Gill, and their son, Mr. Josh Gill. His parents, Major General Retired Clair and Mrs. Sherry Gill from Pennsylvania. Distinguished guests from the Gill family joining us virtually are Major General Gill's in-laws, Colonel Retired Glenn and Mrs. Ora Mackey, and several of Major General Gill's brothers and sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for all our distinguished visitors and guests. Music today is provided by the Training and Doctrine Command Band from Fort Eustis, Virginia, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Kim, and the drum major is Sergeant First Class Adam Carmody. The salute battery is provided by 1st of the 117th Field Artillery Regiment under the direction of Sergeant First Class Ricardo Farias. The reviewing officer for the change of command is Lieutenant General Milford H. Beagle Jr., Commanding General, United States Army Combined Arms Center in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. The host commander is Major General Michael C. McCurry, Commander of the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence in Fort Novosel. The Commander of Troops for today's ceremony is Colonel Richard P. Tucker, Aviation Center of Excellence, Chief of Staff. The Chief Warrant Officer of the Aviation Branch is CW5 Michael A. Corsaro, and the Command Sergeant Major of the Aviation Branch is Command Sergeant Major Kirk R. Coley. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation given by Chaplain Scott G. Kinnis, Fort Novosel Garrison Chaplain.
Let us pray. Dear God, what a privilege it is to invoke your blessings upon this historic ceremony. The pageantry of this moment reminds us of the freedom and the grace that you have shed upon our great nation, and for that we are grateful. Lord, we are also thank you for giving us Major General Mike McCurry, the 17th Aviation Branch Chief. His brand of servant leadership and unwavering commitment to the warfighter on the ground is only matched by his and Mrs. Sadie's genuine love for soldiers and families. The culture of Army aviation will never be the same. Sir, ma'am, family, I pray that the grace of God that has sustained you through years of service will continue to guide your family to much marital success and a blessed future. Lord, I also pray for the incoming Commanding General, Major General Clair Gill. And my prayer for the 18th Branch Chief, Lord, provide him wisdom and grace that he may serve with faithfulness, courage, and integrity. Major General Gill, my prayer for you and Miss Fran, Joshua, is that your marriage and family will flourish during this assignment. Welcome home. God be with our instructor pilots and students at this very hour. Lord, grant them a safe landing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Flowers will now be presented to the outgoing and incoming spouses and families by the 2024 Aviation Center of Excellence Best Squad. Mrs. Sadie McCurry is receiving a full bouquet of red roses from Private First Class Obrick. Red is the color of the heart and reflects the loving concern that she has shown the soldiers, civilians, and their families. Her roses are in full bloom, symbolizing the beauty and fulfillment of her time with us here at the Aviation Center of Excellence. A small bouquet of red roses is being presented to their daughters, Captain Katie Walter and Miss Maggie McCurry. In addition, a single red rose is being given to the McCurry's granddaughter, Miss Rory Walter. A commemorative gift will be given to their sons, Michael, John, and Jed McCurry, their son-in-law, Andrew Walter, and grandson, Patrick Walter. Dr. Fran Gill is receiving a bouquet of yellow rosebuds from Staff Sergeant Meyer. Yellow is the color of new beginnings. In time, her rosebuds will blossom, as will her relationship with the soldiers, civilians, and their families. In addition, Dr. Gill is also being reissued a solo hat from her husband to reinvigorate her warrior spirit as a former Yellow Hat and Chinook pilot. A commemorative gift is also being presented to their son, Mr. Josh Gill. In just a moment, you will hear the adjutant direct the bugler to sound attention as today's ceremony begins.
Sound attention! Sound adjutant's call! Sound parade first! Sound off!
Throughout history, commanders have used music to raise morale and esprit to their soldiers before battle with patriotic songs and stirring marches. Today, it is still symbolized in ceremonies such as this. Sound off is a ceremonial tradition that has been handed down over the decades since the earliest days of the American Army. On the command, sound off, custom holds for the band to march across the front of troops, then countermarch back across the front, halting in its original position. This tradition originated in the Crusades when troops offering themselves for holy service were drawn up into a long formation and the band countermarched before those chosen to serve. The history of the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command Band is a unique mixture of two organizations, with roots that can be traced to both the Artillery Corps and Fort Monroe, Virginia. The band was originally organized in 1931 as the 2nd Coast Artillery Band in the Panama Canal Zone before transferring to Fort Monroe, Virginia in 1932. Following World War II, the band was redesignated as the 69th Army Ground Forces Band, transferring with the Coast Artillery School to Fort Winfield Scott, California, until its inactivation in 1946. The 50th Army Ground Forces Band was constituted and activated in 1945 at Fort George G. Meade, Maryland, transferring to Fort Monroe, Virginia in 1946. In 1947, the 50th Army Ground Forces Band was redesignated the 50th Army Band. In 1972, the band was redesignated the United States Continental Army Band. Shortly thereafter, on September 30th, 1972, the Conarch and the 69th Army Ground Forces Band were consolidated at Fort Monroe. The consolidated band was redesignated the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command Band in 2006. Today, under the flag of the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command, the band continues the long and proud heritage of service established by the 2nd Coast Artillery Band and the 50th Army Ground Forces Band. The band serves as the premier outreach, recruiting, and ceremonial asset for Training and Doctrine Command, bringing the Army story to the local, national, and international audiences through expert musical performances. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in a round of applause for the Trade-Out Command Band from Fort Eustis, Virginia.
Sound attention!
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and direct your attention to the reviewing stand for the arrival of the official party and the playing of honors. Lieutenant General Beagle has deferred this honor to Major General McCurry. During the cannon volleys, the proper courtesy by military personnel is the hand salute. All others will remain standing.
Sound, present, arms.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Sound, order arms, and parade, rest.
At this time, Drill Sergeant Forrest T. Minahan, the 2023-2024 U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence Drill Sergeant of the Year, is presenting Major General McCurry a shell casing commemorating his farewell salute. The reviewing party will now move forward to troop the line and inspect the assembled soldiers. It is believed that Alexander the Great was the first military commander to use this long-standing tradition of inspection. Trooping the line allows a commander to inspect the fitness and readiness of his soldiers while providing the soldiers the opportunity to view their commander up close. The troops show their commander their high state of readiness, devotion to duty, and willingness to carry out their mission. The Army Aviation School transitioned to Camp Rucker, Alabama in August of 1954 with the first class starting in September. In March of 1955, the Army established the Aviation Center at Camp Rucker, and in October of that year, the post was given permanent status with a name change from Camp Rucker to Fort Rucker, and then again was renamed in 2023 to Fort Novosel. Lacking adequate facilities for training at Fort Rucker, Army Aviation continued primary fixed-wing training at Camp Gary, Texas until 1959, and primary rotary wing training at Fort Walters, Texas until 1973. In 1956, the Army Aviation Center started testing weapons on helicopters. These tests led to the development of armament systems for Army attack helicopters and attack aviation operations as we know it today. This forever changed the direction of the aviation branch, providing the Army with a new capability. Both Army Aviation and the helicopter came of age during the Vietnam War. The first Army helicopter units arrived in December of '61, and thousands of soldiers and aircraft soon followed. This was the birth of air assault operations, changing the face of modern warfare and the American way of war. Army Aviation served gallantly until the completion of the disengagement and Vietnamization process in 1973 and set the foundation for the future of helicopters and the branch. Most importantly, Army Aviation gained the trust of the soldiers and commanders on the ground, building a sacred bond that defines the branch to this day. The creation of the Army Aviation Branch on 12 April '83 gave the Army a permanent branch focused on exploiting the third dimension of warfare. It provides the nation an insurmountable operational and tactical advantage without peer in scale or capability, focused on providing the air-ground team the required mobility, lethality, survivability, and situational understanding to win in an increasingly complex world. As part of the Joint Combined Arms Team, Army Aviation presents the enemy with multiple dilemmas in time, space, and tempo, enabling the Combined Arms Team to seize, retain, and exploit the initiative by attacking the enemy from multiple directions, at times, locations, and at a tempo of the ground maneuver commander's choosing. Army Aviation has played a critical role in the crucible of ground combat for more than 60 years, to include operations in Grenada, Panama, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Somalia, Kosovo, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn, Operation Freedom Sentinel, Operation Inherent Resolve, and numerous other operations. Army Aviation continues to play a decisive role throughout the globe, executing operations in support of the ground commander. During more than 20 consecutive years of combat operations, Army Aviation has demonstrated its ability to adapt to changing mission requirements and operate in extreme conditions. Our aviators play a critical role, whether they are entrenched in the high mountains of Afghanistan or the urban areas of Iraq, bringing the fight to the enemy throughout the globe, serving with distinction, honor, and pride. Army Aviation has consistently proven itself during combat operations, maintaining the trust of the ground force commander, executing combined arms maneuver in support of unified land operations. The combination of state-of-the-art equipment in the hands of highly trained and skilled soldiers virtually guarantees success of the branch, the Army, and our nation, now and into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of our national anthem performed by the Training and Doctrine Command Band from Fort Eustis, Virginia.
Detachment, order, arms!
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Sound, order arms, and parade, rest!
The reviewing party will now move forward for the traditional passing of the unit colors. They are assisted by Command Sergeant Major Kirk R. Coley, Command Sergeant Major of the Army Aviation Branch, and CW5 Michael A. Corsaro, Chief Warrant Officer of the Aviation Branch. The change of command ceremony is a simple, traditional event that is rich with symbolism and heritage. The key to the change of command is the passing of the unit colors. These colors represent not only the heritage of and history of the unit, but also the unity and loyalty of its soldiers. The colors are the commander's symbol of authority, representing his responsibilities to the organization. Where the commander is, there also are the colors. The custodian of the colors is the Command Sergeant Major. As the senior enlisted soldier, Command Sergeant Major Coley is both the spokesperson for the loyalty and concerns of the soldiers and is a principal advisor to the commander. The passing of the colors symbolizes the transfer of authority from the outgoing commander to the incoming commander. This demonstrates to the soldiers of the unit the outgoing commander has passed the mantle of leadership to the new commander, and with this must also pass the loyalty of the soldiers to their new commander. By authority of AR 600-20, paragraph 2-5, the undersigned assumes command of the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence at Fort Novosel, effective 26 July 2024. Signed, Clair A. Gill, Major General, United States Army, commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce the commander of the United States Army Combined Arms Center in Fort Leavenworth, Lieutenant General Milford H. Beagle Jr.
Is it working now? You got to be smarter than the equipment. Good morning, everybody. I was about to say it's not that hot, but it really is hot. But it's still a great morning. So we're going to try this again. In the Army, we call this a redo. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is a good morning because all of you are here. And it's great to see all of you in attendance and those who are joining us virtually today. Before I start, soldiers and aviators on the field, I'm going to give you a command. That command is going to be rest. You can shake, you can scratch, you can wipe sweat, do whatever you need to do until my remarks are complete. But rest. Nobody's moving, start moving, do something. So you got this time right now. Sergeant Major Coley, I'm going to ask for your assistance. I want all the color bearers to unseat their colors. feet. I'm not going to be that long. Because I was told that I could speak as long as I wanted to when Mac invited me here. The person standing beside me overheard that conversation and whispered to me, "Sir, you have 5 to 10 minutes to speak as long as you want to speak." So I'm going to adhere to that guidance and move on with it. But I'd like to first thank Sergeant Major Coley. The troops absolutely look amazing today. To the protocol team for all you've done to make this day perfect. And to the team, the combination of bands that you've heard this morning. They've made this day absolutely perfect. And I know that protocol has already been established. I won't go through that laundry list, but again, to the fellow general officers who are here and their spouses, to the many community teammates and leaders who are here today that make this installation great, to the commanders, command sergeant majors, and your spouses who are here, and to our Army civilian professionals in attendance today, thank you all. Thank you for your time. Time is something that we cannot repay you for, nor can we give it back to you. So thank you for being giving of your time today. Now, 2 weeks ago, I was telling Mac I attended a change of command, and the presiding officer spoke for 20 plus minutes. The incoming and outgoing spoke for 10 minutes combined. So I am under no illusion today that you are here to hear me speak or my remarks. And I realize it's not about me, and the quickest way for me not to go down in the history books as that guy is to use all the public speaking tricks that I know. The first 3 are the 3 T's. Tell a good story, take a bow, and take a seat. The next 3 are tell the audience what you're going to tell them and tell them what you told them. I'm a simple guy from South Carolina. My grandma said, never tell anybody anything is what you share. And in South Carolina, tell them is 1 word, not 2. So here's 3 things that I would share with you. Today is about leaders, it is about legacy, and it is about likelihood. So to my first point, we recognize and pay honor to 2 great leaders today, Mac McCurry and Clair Gill and their families. They have a ton of similarities between the 2 of them. And I'm not referring to their size or their stature or their good looks. They both look awesome. But their commonality of calloused hands, bad backs, bad knees, from spending over 50 years in a cockpit of an Army airframe in service to our nation. Thank you both for that. I'm a little bit biased, but you heard the 10th Mountain Division song, so the commonality we have between the 3 of us is we've served in the greatest division in our Army, the 10th Mountain Division, but I'm biased. But Mac and Clair have deep roots here at Novosel, and their DNA runs extremely deep. Mac's father, Michael, his father-in-law, Bill Goodwin, are both retired Army aviators. And Clair's DNA dates back to World War II, where his grandfather flew a B-17 as a B-17 pilot, and his father, Major General retired Clair Gill, and his mother, Sherry, are great examples of how deep that DNA runs, and we have the pleasure of having both of them here with us today. And both leaders married up, and it's fitting that both met their lovely brides right here at Fort Novosel. Mac and Sadie's union of almost 30 years started here and produced a wonderful family that I had the chance to meet this morning, who will continue to extend the McCurry name across our Army. His daughters, Mary, who's an aviator, Katie, who's in armor and about to go to Ranger School, awesome, Michael, who's the paratrooper of the family, and to the youngest, John, Jed, and Maggie. And Clair and Fran's union of over 2 decades started out when a young Clair met a young aviator and a young Fran, Dr. Fran. It's great to see you both and great to serve with you again. And this couple produced what has been described to me as the most mature 17-year-old on the planet. I bumped into him in the gym this morning. He's probably the strongest. It's Josh. And since the last time I saw Josh, he doubled in size. So great to have you here, Josh. To Sadie and Fran, I'll start with you. Thank you for your commitment and your sacrifices that you both have made so that the leaders that we recognize today have the privilege and the opportunity to command. They will not have that without you. And thank you for your consistent demonstration of support, sacrifice, and service to the Army, to families, and to communities. And please accept my humble attempt to say thanks for all that you've done and all that you will continue to do. And to all the McCurry and McGill and Gill children, thank you for your demonstrated resilience. Over a lifetime of being a military-connected child, it takes a lot and it says a lot about you. So on to my second point about legacy. I had 3 things: leaders, legacy, and likelihood. In terms of legacy, this is uniquely focused on you, Mac. We could spend half a day discussing the impact that Mac McCurry has had on Fort Novosel, on the aviation community, and our Army. But simply stated, Mac truly walks away today having left a legacy. And when you think about legacy, people oftentimes look for something that they can see. Mac simply has been a good ancestor. And when you walk away as a good ancestor, you leave behind things that people can feel, things that people can't see, and things that people won't realize until years down the road. Mac, you've been a great ancestor. You've been a really good ancestor. Mac has fundamentally changed aviation simulations for the foreseeable future. He's refocused warrant officer professional military education prior to the point of need. And he set a vision for the aviation branch that would bring smiles to all of his predecessors, and I know a lot of his predecessors are here today. And he injected culture change through things like Project or Operation 83. And Mac has played the role of wise counsel to our Chief of Staff of the Army and the Secretary of the Army. So if you ever wondered why Mac spent more time on the East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere else, and not so much time in Alabama, he was doing those things, serving as that wise counsel, being a good ancestor. His voice, his fingerprints, his ideas permeate all things aviation now and in the future. Mac, to say thank you seems very shallow today. Not even adequate for everything that you've done as a senior commander, as a commanding general, and the face of all things aviation in our Army. I'll simply say thank you. Your work is greatly appreciated and valued, and General Britter wanted me to relay the same thing this morning, especially by people like me who've had the opportunity to serve close with you during my 20-plus months of command. And declare your goal is not to create a new legacy, but rather determine how you weave a different but complementary legacy into an existing strong legacy fabric that already exists here at Fort Novosel. And to my last point, likelihood. As Mac and Sadie bid farewell to Fort Novosel and depart for all great things big at Austin, Texas, in Futures Command, there is a high likelihood that Mac's impact on the future of our Army while serving as the Chief of Staff for Army Futures Command will be even more impactful than the impact that he's had here. The likelihood that Mac is only in the early stages of achieving higher ranks in our Army are equally as high. And the likelihood that the name McCurry will echo on this installation and in this community for years to come is extremely high. And Claire, the likelihood that you will succeed because of the great team that you have here, this tremendous community, the power of the aviation community is the highest likelihood of them all. So of the three things that I've shared, a tribute to leaders and their families, the legacy that we all get to be a part of today, and the hope that we gravitate towards when we think about likelihood. Those are the things that make a day like today special in our Army. I appreciate this opportunity to preside over this ceremony and to engage with all of you. Claire and Fran, enjoy the next chapter of this journey. It's going to be awesome. Drive change, forge victory. This will defend. Be all you can be.
Ladies and gentlemen, the outgoing commander of the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence at Fort Novosel, Major General Michael C. McCurry.
All right, team on the field. General Beagle minute, shake it out a little bit. Couple more minutes. General Cody, Lieutenant General Beagle, elected officials, community leaders, general officers, command sergeants major, command chief warrant officers, distinguished guests, soldiers, family and friends of Army Aviation. Thank you for your attendance on this wonderful and warm Wiregrass morning. I appreciate you and those with us online sharing in this change of command. A special shout out to the members of the Orange Hat class that reported here with me in August of 1989 and who are seated right behind my family. That bond remains strong. Sergeant Major Coley, Mr. Corsaro, the soldiers in front of us today look amazing. Thank you to the assembled TRADOC band for providing the music for the event. You all look magnificent and sound great. I would also like to thank Protocol and the front office team and the garrison for making today's event possible. 2 years ago, or a little more, I stood on this field to accept command of the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence. I noted then, as I do now, that it was an incredibly humbling day for our family. We were returning home in a way. Both my wife, Sadie, and I have roots here in the Wiregrass. As a child, I can remember my father's flight school class flying in formation over this field on December 7th, 1973. And Sadie graduated from Enterprise High School here. What memories. But today, we pile 2 more years of memories from here into our rucksack and our family scrapbook. And we've given another generation of McCurry's roots in the Wiregrass. The world is a dangerous place, and Army Aviation, as a part of the Combined Arms team, is committed to fight and win anytime, anywhere, on behalf of our nation. We exist for one reason: the soldier on the ground. We train our aviation soldiers to be technically and tactically sharp, and we inculcate them with the aviation warfighting culture that forges cohesion and commitment to uphold the sacred trust. We have no compromise on standards, and we uphold rigor in all our training. But this commitment to the sacred trust is not new. It's been with us since its inception of Army Aviation. In Korea, Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, the global war on terror, Army Aviation was there, and I am proud to hold the title of Army Aviator. Goodbyes are hard, but thank yous are easy, and they are free. The team here is incredible, and a great mentor once told me, never say I. So in that spirit, we will thank the parts of the team. As the commanding general, there were 3 hats: senior commander, Fort Novosel, senior aviation trainer in the Army, and 17th branch chief. In each of these capacities, I had incredible teammates. I want to thank Army senior leaders, General Brito, General Beagle, for their trust, leadership, and mentorship. And General Beagle, sir, thank you for taking the time to come down here for this ceremony. Your leadership has been refreshing and appreciated. In our core mission, producing the finest aviators in the world, we fly 34% of all the Army's flying hours right here at Fort Novosel. That doesn't happen by accident. It starts with our local community leaders, the communities they serve. It is between 23 and 28,000 citizens of the Wiregrass and surrounding communities that are hard at work inside our cantonment area and at the 5 base fields and 17 stage fields every day. It's also the way you welcome us into your communities with partnership and love. In Army Aviation, we don't fly a single hour without the backbone of the Army, the non-commissioned officer corps leading our great aviation maintainers. Every flight hour has to be produced through many hours of hard and exacting maintenance, and that is true here at Fort Novosel as well. And as the NCOs are the backbone of the Army, the Warrant Officer Corps is the lifeblood of Army Aviation. In the 60s, we had a sign that hung under the Daleville gate that said our most important product is warrant officers. That remains true today. And one of our best accomplishments has been realigning warrant officer professional military education to focus on producing lethality and readiness in the operational force. Our Department of the Army civilians are the nervous system and continuity here at the Aviation Center. The directors and their teams keep this installation functioning, and they thrive under the leadership of the Army's newest SES, Mr. Bob Dewar. Our international partners from 34 countries represented here today by our L&O teams keep us focused on learning from each other and making the world a better place. And then there are our families, the heartbeat of the force, the very reason for all we do. We ask more of them than we do of soldiers, and yet they tighten down their own bootlaces and continue to march. Our families sacrifice every day. They are the greatest of patriots. I want to make a special shout out to the senior ladies of Fort Novosel. You kept us all going. Your genuine love for each other and your ability to create fun built this team. And finally, speaking of families, I want to thank my wife, Sadie, and my own children. Sadie, you are truly the wind beneath my wings. Through all the moves, thousands of flight hours, and 5 combat tours, you've been my best friend, confidant, and counselor. None of this is possible without you. As those of you that have attended any social event at our home know, John, Jed, and Maggie are the best party planning and cleanup crew that you could ask for. You guys rock, and I'm incredibly proud of you and excited for our next adventure. Katie and Andrew, Mary and Evan and Michael, along with the grandkids, I appreciate all of your support and love. You keep me in the Army. To all of these groups, I give a heartfelt thanks for the last 2 years. Claire and Fran, I congratulate you on your command and wish you the best. For everyone else, the Gills are lifelong friends. We've known each other a long time, and General Gill and I have replaced each other a few times before, so he'll be able to find and clean up the messes I left. I'm certain that you, Fran, and Josh will enjoy the area, and I left a spray bottle of no gnats under the kitchen sink. So as we say our farewells for now, we return a final time to the sacred trust and what we do. If that ground soldier needs to know what's over the next hill, we find out. If they need to be put in a position of relative advantage, we put them there. If they need beans, bullets, or water, we deliver. And God forbid if that soldier's laying wounded on the field of battle, we are coming to get them. Remember that, and we will always uphold the sacred trust. This will defend, above the best, Fly Army.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be the first to introduce the Commanding General of the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence and Fort Novosel, Major General Clair A. Gill.
It is so good to be back in the Wiregrass and be home at Fort Novosel with so many teammates, new and old, many with whom we've served and deployed over the course of our career. I want to welcome and say thanks to all of our distinguished guests, elected officials, representatives, CASAs, community leaders, and to the USAACE and the Novosel teams. Thanks to the band, the cannoneers, the protocol team, military police, medics, volunteers, some voluntold, I'm sure, and to the men and women standing on the field. I truly am looking forward to working with all of you to continue to deliver aviation to our Army. And finally, a special warm welcome and thanks to many colleagues, friends, and family of the Gills who have carried us through our Army journey. Welcome to Fort Novosel. As General Beagle alluded, the Gill family has some significant personal history from our time here in the 1990s, when that young lady wearing a yellow hat was a company commander at Cairns, and I was an aide to General Mike Burke, sitting with my family here today. Sir and Kathy, it was an honor to serve with you, and thanks for your continued support over the years. God bless. Who knew that Fort Novosel would connect me with my bride, and it would kick off a journey of ages as we served our nation and our communities along the way. Fran, thanks for sticking with me when we decided to go the distance with the Army. And of course, we're blessed to share this life of service with our wonderful son, Josh, who will complete his final year of high school in Arlington, where he captains his crew team. We are so proud of you, my man. I love you both. Okay, well, we just came from a busy assignment on the Joint Staff in the windowless bowels of the Pentagon basement. I think I'm the only person happy to have sweat running off my brow today. But it sure is great to be back in the Army, and particularly with our Army Aviation tribe. I cut my teeth here in the Aviation Center, much like many of you here today. I learned a lot of technical skills that would serve me well, but nothing burned into my being more than the fact that we train Army warfighters here who happen to fly complex machines that enhance and provide the decisive edge to the combined arms fight. Here at Novosel, I learned and will continue to train the ethos that we are one with the men and the women of our Army, and the same goes for our international partners and allies with whom we train and fight. As we look at the battlefields of today and tomorrow, the critics will argue the relevance and survivability of Army aviation. To that, I'd reference you to Teddy Roosevelt's 1910 speech about the citizenship in a republic. This team is in the arena to win. We haven't seen an adversary moderately comparable to the U.S. Army's aviation. The world's tyrants only wish they could fight at night and in the terrain like we do. Our enemies wish they had the professional mechanics and crew members that we grow and train. They tremble at the integration of our technology with our selfless commitment to our mission. With a modernized U.S. Army Aviation, I sleep well thinking about what our Army brings to the joint fight, even in an era of global unrest. I have no idea what the geopolitics of the world will look like for the next couple of years, but I know this, that our nation, that our military, our Army, and our branch will be engaged, we will be ready when called, and we'll answer with that ominous sound of rotors coming over the horizon. I quickly just want to acknowledge a few folks here. My folks, 35 years of service to our Army. My dad was the engineer branch chief and guest speaker at my flight school class over here in the museum 29 years ago. Thanks to you and Mom for being great parents and supporters. Many friends, my siblings, my in-laws, and half of Long Island, which is Fran's home, are likely dialed in online. I don't know where the camera is, but to Glenn and Oria, we're praying for you. Stay strong. And there are numerous audiences here. There are several men from my company command, the legendary Black Widows. One of my platoon leaders, Josh Waddy, my SP, Jim Cook. I think he could fly a cardboard box. Maintenance officer, Eric Trevis, who could probably make that cardboard box fly. Brian Lackey was a W01 in that company, later came back to me, my battalion SP. And my first sergeant, who I lost contact with for 25 years, Tom Myers, is here. Tom, put your hand up somewhere. Where is he? Way down there. Tom Myers drove in from St. Louis to be here. Great to reconnect with these warriors. That was a formidable lot of air assault talent from back in the days of laminated maps and paper time distance heading cards and LZ sketches. Half of Nashville, I believe, is here. Thanks to our adopted Music City family for making the I-65 trek down to Alabama. I know there was a lot of Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama rocking on the car stereos yesterday. There are some incredible patriots out of uniform, to be sure, truly humbled that you all would come. And then there's some folks here from my battalion and brigade commands here from the 101st and the 10th Mountain Division. Travis Rabb was my brigade XO. Stephen DiGiorgio, my brigade sergeant major. Are you here, Steve? Right here. Way down there. Awesome to see you. Thank you for coming. Thanks to you all. You were the phalanx upon which I've been able to lean for the last 3 decades. Too many mentors, branch chiefs here to mention, wonderful leaders who have personally coached me. Some it took more coaching than others. Thank you for your patience, and they shaped our branch to be the force multiplier that it is today. I'm proud to serve with every single one of you. And then I can't pass an opportunity to give a quick shout out to the USAACE class of '94. I think I saw Major General Lori Robinson, our AMCOM commander, and our incoming Deputy Commanding General, Brigadier General Ken Cole. Super fired up to have him back on the team. And Team Kennedy, Josh, and Kirsten are here. Proud of this team that continues to serve and lead our Army, and thankful for each of you. And then finally, a special thanks to Mac and Sadie McCurry. As it's been mentioned, we have benefited from inheriting formations from the McCurrys over multiple assignments, and it's clear that they're the strength of our Army and our branch. Thanks to you both for your leadership now and in years past. It's for obvious reasons I love following Mac in command. Mac, a heartfelt thank you to you on behalf of our branch and our Army. Fired up for your continued service and success. I'm sure I'll continue to leverage your experience, even as your family moves off to Texas. But know that Fort Novosel remains your home with open doors anytime we can get you and Sadie and the family back. To the Wiregrass community, Fran and I look forward to thickening the fiber of our bonds of our community and our military here in Alabama. Thanks for the heartfelt welcome home. Our door is open, and while I normally offer that my warming fire is lit, I think it probably more appropriate to say we'll have a cool beverage and air conditioning when you come by. Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's have a great weekend before we all get back to the business of training the world's greatest aviators to be ready to answer the call of our nation above the best.
The commander of troops is Colonel Richard P. Tucker from Tampa, Florida. The commander of the Trinidad Command Band is Lieutenant Colonel Day Kim. The drum major is Sergeant First Class Adam Carmody. The United States Army Combat Readiness Center Command Team is Brigadier General Jonathan Byram from Galion, Ohio, and Command Sergeant Major is J.P. Alcedo from Lima, Peru. The 1st Aviation Brigade Command Team is Colonel Jason Woodward from Splendora, Texas. Command Chief Warrant Officer CW5 Nigel Hubsher from Seymour, Wisconsin, and Command Sergeant Major John Bonilla from Riverside, California. The 1st of the 13th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Gaines from Nevada City, California, and Command Sergeant Major Michael McAvoy from Twin Falls, Idaho. The 2nd Battalion, 13th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Kent Monias from Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, and Command Sergeant Major Chastity Lee from New Brockton, Alabama. 1st Battalion, 145th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Mark Axtell from Ithaca, New York, and Command Sergeant Major Julian Adams from Enterprise, Alabama. The AMCOM Combined Logistics Command Team is Colonel Timothy Harloff from Sebastian, Florida, and Sergeant Major Devin Weber from Pocono Lake, Pennsylvania. The 128th Aviation Brigade Command Team is Colonel Paul Morshed from Gainesville, Florida, and Command Chief Warrant Officer CW5 Don Chambers from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with Command Sergeant Major Christine Hughes from Phoenix City, Alabama. The 1st Battalion, 210th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Bales from Northfield, Vermont, with 1st Sergeant Justin Dodson from Hudson, Florida. The 2nd Battalion, 210th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Aris Como from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Command Sergeant Major Chris Margiano from Queens, New York. The 1st Battalion, 222nd Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Sood from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Command Sergeant Major Curtis Anderson from Portland, Jamaica. The Fort Novosel Garrison Command Team is Colonel John Miller from Des Moines, Iowa, and Command Sergeant Major Gary Williams from Montego Bay, Jamaica. The Commandant of the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, Fort Novosel, is Command Sergeant Major Jose Perez from Key West, Florida. The Deputy Commandant is First Sergeant Francisco Manabusan from Saipan. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as the national colors pass and render the appropriate honors. The Aviation Center of Excellence Color Guard is led by Command Sergeant Major Kirk Coley from Kingston, Jamaica, and CW5 Michael Corsaro from McKeesport, Pennsylvania. Commandant of the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, Fort Eustis, is Command Sergeant Major Linus Felix from St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. The Deputy Commandant is First Sergeant Greg Woolever from Athens, Georgia. The U.S. Army Aeromedical Research Laboratory Command Team is Colonel Matthew Hofer from Minneapolis, Minnesota, with Master Sergeant Mariah Mattingly from Ovid, Michigan. The 110th Aviation Brigade Command Team is Colonel Keith Hill from St. Petersburg, Florida. His Command Chief Warrant Officer is CW5 Robert Macy from West Plains, Missouri, and Command Sergeant Major Julio Santos from Washington, D.C. The 1st Battalion, 11th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Sean Smith from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Command Sergeant Major Ramon Casas from San Juan, Puerto Rico. 1st Battalion, 14th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Brian Haas from Venturia, North Dakota, and Command Sergeant Major Luis Boltron from Carolina, Puerto Rico. 1st Battalion, 212th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Colonel Mackie Price from Newberry, South Carolina, and Command Sergeant Major Matthew Thomas from Oceanside, California. The 1st Battalion, 223rd Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Men from Carthage, Illinois, and 1st Sergeant Donnie Taylor from Newport News, Virginia. The Lister Army Health Clinic Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Leah Stetter from Grand Lake, Colorado, with Sergeant Major Meredith Green from Staten Island, New York. The Air Traffic Services Command and 164th Theater Airfield Operations Group Command Team is Colonel Brian Jones from Raleigh, North Carolina, and Command Sergeant Major Caleb Boff from Citrus Heights, California. The 1st Battalion, 58th Airfield Operations Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Lindsey Ryan from Buffalo, New York, and Master Sergeant John Fagan from Ural, California. The 3rd Battalion, 58th Airfield Operations Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Douglas Lindsley from Ulan, Minnesota, and Master Sergeant Daniel Jimenez from Claremont, California. The Commandant of the United States Army Warrant Officer Career College is Colonel Kevin McHugh from Fort Rucker, Alabama, with Sergeant First Class Cinnamon Tua from Montgomery, Alabama. The U.S. Army Dental Clinic Command is commanded by Colonel Rusty Waite from Tallahena, Oklahoma, with Staff Sergeant Jamie Raymond from San Antonio, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join us in singing Above the Best and the Army Song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for joining us. Major General and Mrs. McCurry will receive final farewells at the tent to the left of the reviewing stand. Please join Major General Gill and Dr. Gill for a reception at the Aviation Museum immediately following. Thank you for your attendance. Above the best, fly Army.